If agriculture rotten teeth, how do Western price findings in Swiss fits with that? Sorry if silly question. No, it's not a silly question at all. Lactoferrin, it's called lactoferrin. Lactoferrin binds lectins in the like gluten and other things like that, and removes them. Also, the old breads were very high in protein, much lower in carbohydrate, double the protein, double the mineral content because they were grown in very mineral-rich soils, and they were very much similar to the Zea bread that you found in ancient Greece. So, very different types. Also, it was sprouted and fermented, so it broke down all the anti-nutrients. And they didn't eat heaps of it because it was so protein, very heavy. Only a small amount was enough. My father used to basically get a small slice. His mother used to make for the whole week a loaf, cut a small slice, put a whole lot of lard and then or butter. But Dad preferred butter, and then got a whole bit of the goat feta cheese on it because they had goats, and basically yeah, he used to that was his breakfast in the morning. And then he'd have other foods later on, which were more animal-based or dairy or whatever. Some plants seasonally and some fruit seasonally, as I used to do in those days. But these people didn't have these problems because a lot of they were having raw dairy, and raw dairy is high in lactoferrin, and lactoferrin binds any lectins that are left after the fermentation. Because usually, his mother used to do it over 3 days. Even many of the, if you go still to villages in Greece, a lot of the actual they still do it over 3 days. So it's fermented, it's properly, and it breaks down a lot of the anti-nutrients in the actual. So you're actually getting, protein, and you're getting some glucose. And because you're getting small amounts and you're physically quite active, it just repletes glycogen, so it's less of a problem. That's why it was less of a problem. In an office work environment where you're eating too much and you're not you've got you don't need to replete glycogen, can become a problem, let alone all the anti-nutrients, because it's processed in a way to be rapidly done without any consideration for the anti-nutrients to reduce those. Plus, you don't have the protective effect of raw milk anymore because it's not sold. We pasteurize our milk. Back then it was raw, so the lactoferrin can actually bind to lectins and remove them. So like gluten, stuff like that. That's why a lot of those issues didn't exist then. And when we removed that milk that actually dealt with the problem of the small amount of lectins, and we increased the lectins, we increased the gluten, we reduced the protein content of, with hybridizing in the 1960s, when we hybridized the wheat and created these new type of wheats, which had more glucose, lower protein, lower minerals, and higher gluten as well, because gluten makes it softer. That's why bread today is softer, because of more gluten in it. It didn't become like a rock in the past, which it was. That's why you've got basically the modern breads that cause all these problems compared to back then. So, or food, certain types of foods that were observed. Remember, he actually noticed that same population could be in a village eating, that traditional bread that they produced, and with their raw milk, and then you go to a nearby town where they've got seed oils and refined sort of flour and stuff like that, and it's the complete opposite. Tells you all about, stuff like that. There is a traditional processing method that breaks down the anti-nutrients, and then there's a modern processing method that doesn't, and also removes the protective element, which is lactoferrin. So it also improves, lactoferrin also improves the level of interferon in your body, which is a immunomodulating thing. So if you want to improve your immune system, I've said within this era of C19, I have recommended people supplement lactoferrin supplements, especially if they've got any symptoms and stuff like that. So yes.